Well, I think today's December 13th, and I think we are live. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining for this last webinar of the year. I think I need a break, and you guys probably all deserve a break. Today, we're going to be discussing about something that, users have been asking for a long time. It's a subject that I care a lot about, and we've been discussing this a lot in various contexts, in the context of authoring content for Dolby Atmos, and even using these famous ADM master files to render them with SPAT. And we'll discuss about all this today. Okay. Excellent. So before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Hugo Larin with the FLUX team. And actually, I should say, for the ones that don't know, the FLUX team, part now of the Armin solution, professional solution from Armin. I have to get used to mentioning this. Something that just happened recently. It's business as usual for us, and at the same time, it's an amazing opportunity, which we won't discuss on this call. But anyway, big news for us this week and today's conversation about SPAT Revolution, specifically creating some mixes. And I mean creating mixes. Maybe you're actually in a live performance, you're delivering for a system, maybe you're delivering for binaural audio, using SPAT Revolution to, for whatever deliverable you may have, your system of the day, binaural audio, maybe in ambisonic as well, working in ambisonic. But maybe at one point there is a need and a desire to actually deliver this, author this, and deliver it as we call it Atmos deliverable. We'll get on the subject as an ADM master file, something that could be used potentially to upload on Apple Music, Tidal, or other streaming services that supports this ADM, file delivery, which we'll talk about today. All good? Yes, that's kind of the beginning of the conversation, and we are going to dive right into it. Dolby Atmos, what? That's it's kind of a question to you know generate some debate, I guess, because if you ask what's Dolby Atmos, I mean I think it really depends who you are and where you sit, right? I mean, some people in studio may think, Dolby Atmos is, well, I have an Atmos system. It's their system. It's their monitoring environment. To me, it's a monitoring environment, but it is often kind of attached, defined, right? So yes, you could say that Dolby Atmos is, a monitoring environment in your studio. For my mom, Dolby Atmos is nothing. Well, not really. Actually, on her phone, she, goes Apple Music. I don't think she's Apple Music, is she? Maybe, but she sees Dolby Atmos now, so maybe she's getting some sort of a link. Not too sure what she thinks about it. But anyway, so the question is, what is Dolby Atmos? I mean, is it content creation? Is it content creation tool? Is it a room model? Is it reverb? Is it we know that it's object-based conversation for sure. But anyway, I like to throw this around. Maybe some people could throw, on the community. What is Dolby Atmos in your view? Right? Because yes, it's Dolby. It's the license. But we'll talk about this, right now. And to me, Dolby Atmos is much about a delivery mechanism, right? And by I mean a delivery mechanism, I'm really thinking about kind of an end-to-end, mechanism. So creation, a deliverable, delivers, and then output to a system. And I guess we could throw in a conversation that is a form of quality insurance from creation to delivery, right? It's, you're creating a master, it gets delivered, it's going to output a specific way. You can author, monitor this. And that is critical. That is critical. That authoring tool is obviously critical of it. But to me, it's much about an actual delivery mechanism. That's my view on it anyway. But we all know as well that it actually derives quite a bit. And I'm talking about this quality insurance. It was derived literally from the movie theater settings, and the ability to create, movies with, multi-channel audio, object-based audio, and be able to present it in hundreds of theaters with the same quality, with different settings, but very much, driven by that. Now, those settings are kind of the same deal for the studio monitoring, very much, standardized the 714, 514, about the typical arrangements. We see quite a bit of 514 and 714 right now as monitoring environment. 916, 914 is increasing as well. Now, one thing that we talk a lot, it's kind of confusing for people. It's object-based, it's Atmos, but there's all these object-based renderers. SPAT Revolution is an object-based rendering machine. But I guess that we could, kind of differentiate what SPAT Revolution does and then what, an Atmos object is by the fact, number one, that is very much, an object is very much constrained to what I call the shoebox. Right? The shoebox, the theatrical shoebox, which we actually see in the Dolby renderer. So when I mean constraint is that these objects are living on the walls, or they're living on the walls, or potentially going inside, which actually does kind of a mono all the way to the center, spitting out to all the speakers. And I'm not going to comment on this, but they're actually stuck on the wall. Why is this an important conversation? Well, people that have been in immersive audio for some time, being in gaming, for example, are actually working. I'm trying always to find the good term for this, but actually to work from the shoebox out, meaning the object can depart and can have distance attenuation model, for example. It adds to the creation. Anyway, so for the ones that are new to SPAT Revolution, you're kind of trying to figure out where I'm going with this. We'll explore it as we move. For the ones that have been in SPAT Revolution, understand what I'm talking about here. It's the advanced room model, the perceptual factors, and this attenuation, the distance attenuation model, that doesn't confine us to being stuck on a wall, per se. Not a judgment. I'm just kind of, laying down what this is all about. The techniques that you use, are completely layer-based. So, one level, two level, as far as these, the monitoring environment and the typical reproduction environment as well. A technique that we have, but, we typically in SPAT Revolution don't always use this technique. And that's an important one for us at SPAT Revolution, is that technique, that panning technique, is very much sweet spot oriented, direction oriented, right? We're exploding a pairwise type technique like stereo, like any angular technique, over a larger arrangements, with the disadvantage of being sweet spot centric. And that is a problem, and I believe anyway, when we're wanting to actually, sorry, sorry, I thought it was an important message, like Hugo, there's no more audio, but audio seems to be flowing. But this is important, this conversation, because as we want to present, an audio mix, a music mix, for example, or a live concert, to a large audience, spread out in the venue, we like to think that there's other panning techniques which brings democracy for the audience. We have wave field synthesis that we use quite a bit, and other non-direction oriented techniques. Anyway, I'm not going to bug you down with this. It was kind of to wrap up this, but ultimately we're talking about an object-based deliverable. What's an object-based deliverable? We'll talk about this in 2 seconds, but this is what we are delivering. This is what you're uploading into the Apple Music, the title, and this is what we're going to be doing today, and see how can SPAT kind of fit in with those objects. And important to say, well, anyway, I'll get into this. Yes, an object deliverable, to wrap on this, right, is the beauty to be, or can be, agnostic to the end delivery system. That's the whole power. So I'm back to about a delivery mechanism. The whole reason we all care about this object-based deliverable is because it's agnostic. It's objects, it's metadata, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds, to a delivery system. And a delivery system may be this, maybe that, or maybe, a bigger system in a larger audience. Okay, moving on to an important subject now. As we start to talk about this delivery, people on the subject got to be familiar with ADM, and maybe some of you are already completely familiar, so I'm going to go fast on it. But ADM is a critical part to this, and ADM actually stands for Audio Definition Model. It is important as well to mention that it's an extension of the broadcast wave format. So it is a wave file, but it's a wave file with actually extra piece of information. This extra information is what? The technical properties, the parameters of the audio. It's not just the audio, but some piece of which we call metadata. And it's very important to mention that this ADM is actually standardized by the European broadcast. at EBU, and actually others are very well supporting the standardized model. And this is what you're actually outputting of Adobe Renderer today. Now I have to be careful. Anyway, I'll cover this in a second. But yeah, so as I was kind of saying, it contains the audio and the metadata. And at the base, this metadata is what? It's the positional information. Bit more than the position, object size, there's other parameters. But at the base, this is what it is. Now, in a context of a Dolby deliverable, the ADM contains extra information that are, let's call it Dolby-centric. But at the base, they comply to this ADM file. This means that I can myself, and we'll listen to this in 2 seconds, take this file and render it to other type of arrangements with other binaural, encoders. I shouldn't say encoder, HRTFs, to ambisonic, and so on, so forth. I think I have to thank Netflix, for the fact, and I'm not sure if someone around the call and can correct me, I'll be more than happy to be corrected. But I like to think that Netflix was a key, player in imposing to Dolby, I would say to Dolby, or I would say to the industry, that we actually adopt these ADM master that are standardized, that are not only readable by Dolby tools. Without getting into the details of why this is important, but this is what we have today to work. We'll be listening to some, we'll be creating some with the Dolby tools, but we'll be creating some. Okay, and then ultimately, the key thing with this ADM files, it can then be imported in a workstation, exported to other DAW, and from the Dolby renderer. You export from a Dolby renderer, you can import in Nundo. It's the session, it's the object, the metadata, the automation. It's all there ready to be presented to a renderer. Dolby today we're discussing, but it's the same case for actually SPAT Revolution, which we'll be doing in the second year. So yes, let's listen to some music, because we're here for music. We're going to be using today, and what we're going to be doing actually to start this conversation, I'm going to actually start you with the other way around. We'll start with this ADM masters that, are actually coming from a Dolby, I would say, environment, commercial music in this particular case. And we're going to be using SPAT to render it, kind of to prove the concept of the beauty of this, standardized ADM mechanism. I'm going to be using a player from the IRCAM called the ADM Mix. It's a very simple tool to play out the audio and the metadata. SPAT Revolution rendering, we're not going to spend time on the player at all, but I could be using Steinberg Nundo as well. Important to note that Nundo is, I have to be careful, but probably the only DAW today that beyond importing the actual ADM file, the ADM master, it actually sends out the metadata. Okay, sends out the metadata, not just a Dolby internal renderer, not just to a Dolby external renderer, but to MPEG-H renderer, to SPAT Revolution, or an external renderer using OSC, which we'll talk in 2 seconds. So for the listening session, I'm actually going to use this one, I think, today. Therefore I Am, Billie Eilish, Atmos Mix. I unfortunately do not know who made the mix, and if someone does, I've been trying to chase this information. This is one of the tracks that I don't know this information. I have mixed information, I should say, so I'm not disclosing because I'm not sure who it is. But if someone knows precisely who mixed this, want to send, a big congratulations for this mix. This is one of the nice ones that I use, quite a bit as we play. And we're probably going to play this, and the second one we'll play, well, actually more a theatrical one. So let's dive into SPAT. Let's just right there dive into SPAT. We should be able to do this. There you are. We are in SPAT Revolution. Now you're going to say, Hugo, I'm not seeing actually any objects. Yeah, then this is actually thanks to a new feature that's called the auto hide. And the auto hide doesn't show me sources that are not active. If I actually disable it, now you'll actually see the scene. And I can actually recall the start position. All the objects are actually dead center. Look at the left side here. We have our new groups that we've talked about. So if I'm actually, expanding, this is the actual bed. You guys are familiar with this bed. If you're using Dolby already, we'll talk about this today. We're actually going to not use the bed later on. And you'll see some things as we play this track. Okay, so we're going to close this, and these are all the actual objects, 118 objects. Not necessarily all are used. And for now, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to try to get this going, and have you enjoy a bit of listening. Let's try that.
not your friend or anything, damn. You think that you're the man, I think therefore I am. I'm not your friend or anything, damn. You think that you're the man, I think therefore I am. Stop. What the hell are you talking about? Get my pretty name out of your mouth. We are not the same with or without. Don't talk about me like how you might know how I feel. Top of the world. It was an idea, so go have fun. I really couldn't care less, and you can give it my best, but just know I'm not your friend or anything, damn. You think that you're the man, I think therefore I am. I'm not your friend or anything, damn. You think that you're the man, I think therefore I am. I don't.
We could be listening. I don't like to interrupt songs, but we get into these webinars, and if we actually start to listen to all this stuff, we're actually going to be here for 2 hours. And some of you probably know that I could do this for 2 hours. But let's just discuss about what's going on here. I've started actually to play in the back, which you didn't see. You saw the position all take their place. This is the metadata coming from the ADM master. What else did we see here? You saw me actually solo the bed to show you there's actually nothing in the bed. And we'll come back into this conversation later. And you then saw me solo the objects, 1, 2, 3, and you saw some still objects, left, right, center. Yes, channel order, Pro Tools, left, center, right. Yes, LCR. I get confused with channel orders all the time. And I kept going on, and then you saw an actual what we call left wide and right wide. That's going to be talking about 916 or subject of the day, and so on and so forth. I kept kind of soloing. So basically, what this shows at the same time is we actually have this tendency now of seeing studios create with the objects, using objects as static position. Basically, a bed, but declare as static fixed objects, and maybe more of them and layering them. We're not going to analyze this particular mix, but this is SPAT Revolution. For the ones that are familiar with the SPAT, no attenuation model, no reverb. Why? Because these tools don't exist in the Dolby environment. Right? So I'm not using any SPAT attenuation model. I'm actually using, now we're on headphone, we are using, I think, a spherical model for the headphone. We could be using another HRTF, a custom one, but you were listening to the binaural audio, but no concepts of attenuation, reverb, or anything. This is exactly as it was intended. The only, I guess, thing here is we're not listening to the Dolby HRTF profile, nor an Apple profile where we're on a spherical ad. Sometime I listen to it on other HRTF. I've got my own HRTF, but we could be delivering this to the system as well, right? If I actually do this here, you'll actually see that this could be rendered to a system. We're not going to talk about this today, but this is the typical things I do when I run into some demonstration of this. Okay, let's just listen to another one for fun. We'll move into a theatrical, a theatrical one. Just quickly to give you kind of the same concept here. It's going to take a bit of time to load. You think you saw the position moving? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. Is that behaving good for me? Loading the file, loading the file. Oh, yeah. Okay. And let me play this. Okay, what's going on here? And now everything disappeared thanks to the auto-ide on the source. There's no more audio. So in this particular case, I loaded another file. This one wasn't for music delivery. This one for a theatrical production. This actually come from a Netflix demo. I think, again, an ADM master, audio being presented, render in SPAT. And this is, really wanted to highlight the ability to take these masters with a standard format, present the metadata, render it to exactly our need. And in our case with SPAT, a lot of those, maybe, any custom type of arrangements. Okay, I was kind of sidetracking to, to kind of introduce the ADM, but we'll now actually get back on the core of the subject and move to the next step here. Okay, where are we at? There we go. Okay, so therefore I am. That was another track I could have actually played, which I like quite a bit. But I actually decided to skip it and to choose a theatrical one instead. As we're actually talking about this, just to wrap up the subject, I think there's an important aspect to talk about is, well, Hugo, this metadata, how does it actually stream? And I always take the opportunity to actually talk about this initiative because it is an industry one to standardization. And this is using OSC messages. For the one that are not familiar with OSC, you may want to check it out. For the one that are in SPAT Revolution, you are familiar with it. But this basically initiative is there to basically propose to use OSC to pass this piece of metadata between application, which is actually quite important. And that's really to create an object-based ecosystem. I've talked about the ability to use Nuendo as a player with SPAT. This is what it's all about. Nuendo is actually part of this group in that initiative. So I'm going to kind of go over fastly on this, basically the position information over OSC, a network protocol. Sorry. And this is implemented in many software: SPAT Revolution, L-Acoustic, Elisa, Ovation, Nuendo, Space Map Go, and more theatrical production, Space Controller from Sound Particle, where you use your phone to point the azimuth and then move the distance. And because SPAT has a distance model, it'll be able to take advantage of this. And there's actually many more on that list. I'm not going to get through the complete list. And important to say that Dolby's actually got interested in the subject and actually proposed a revised or a bona fide version that may, actually deal with the specific need they may have for serial ADM and other type of things. Okay, Hugo, let's get back on the subject. Using SPAT Revolution for Dolby Atmos deliverable. This is what we're going to be doing today. What we're going to be able to do and what this subject is all about is the ability to create a higher resolution channel-based mix using the SPAT root model. So taking advantage, instead of using objects in Dolby Renderer that does not have the attenuation model, and no reverb engine attached to it. You've got to deal with your reverb with a stereo reverb or a 5.1 reverb in the bed and so on and so forth. Here, the proposed, scenario workflow is to use SPAT and this with this unique reverb engine. Without getting into the details of all what it does, we could at least mention the fact that, localizing early reflection with the objects that you're enabling the reverb on, and a more, a complete model. This room model is, attenuation, as we've talked about, and everything. So here we have the ability to create basically an higher channel-based mix in SPAT with that complete room model, which we're going to be doing. You know what? Well, we're basically ultimately going to go to the Dolby renderer to author this, and we're going to bypass this 712 limitation. You've seen it already in the Therefore I Am from Billie Eilish. They're bypassing the 712 to use these static objects to declare a 916. I think Capitol Record is doing this. I mean, I'm sure many people are doing it. Maybe I'm just late to the game, but I have more and more I see ADM masters. I see this come up, and that basically is bringing higher resolution up there, right? 916, so front, mid, and rear, left to right, which the 712 was, is a limitation of. So we're going to be able to bypass this. And what we're actually going to be doing in this particular case, we're going to use the example of a 916 made in SPAT and actually declare as static objects. So the different channel as static objects, and be able to listen to this. We'll go to the full exercise today. So yes, this 916 are becoming, I've mentioned this already. We are seeing this more and more. And we could say that, mastering an actual, channel-based CB for channel-based mix is actually, way simpler, potentially anyway, somehow simpler than to do this on the objects. I'm not going to get into the conversation of mastering. Some people know what I'm talking about here. But here, because we're going to have a bed, we're going to be able to master this actual bed, which we're exploding into objects after that. And thanks to the new Pro Tools, and this is not just possible with Pro Tools, by the way. I am using Pro Tools for various reasons. We have the ease now to explode this 916 into the static object exactly where they're positioned. So the process is very, very simple, and we'll do this together. And it's possible with other DAWs. It's just Pro Tools is the one for today. On this note, we're going to be releasing a tech article with some templates. We'll still have a Pro Tools template, although the steps are fairly straightforward. We're most probably going to do one for Nundo, for Reaper, which is not a common one with Dolby workflows necessarily, but we're actually going to do one for Reaper as well. We may actually consider other, potentially an Apple Music as well. Anyway, without getting into the detail, we'll be releasing this very shortly, so follow the FLUX Immersive user group. The tech article and these templates will follow. But today you'll be able to actually probably do this without any template. That's the goal anyway. So let's dive. We're going to dive, sorry, and I think I'm on the wrong. Yes. Okay, let's dive. So what we're going to actually do to start is we're going to be listening. I was mentioning Kellen Tanqueray, who was working with the Close Talker guys, the video you saw at the beginning. So now we're going to take a studio session he makes in binaural. That was his exercise in his own little world in SPAT Revolution, 40-50 objects, audio tracks, declare in SPAT Revolution. And he did this as a creation. Then he actually presented it on some custom speaker arrangement using different techniques. And now today we're going to take his session, go through the steps of making a 916 out of it. Okay? Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's jump to SPAT right now. We're going to jump to SPAT. Here we are. Are we there? Yes, we are there. We're going to be actually closing this session, right? We have this session here that we've used for the ADM. I'm going to close this session and actually open the session from Kellen. I'm going to be opening in the back for you, which you may not see anything. Well, we'll actually going to look at it later. The actual session in Pro Tools as well. Let's see what that does. Yeah. It's actually opening something. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, yes, it is. It was reflecting for a second. Okay. So we are good. We've got this session here. This is the Pro Tools session. I'm going to be playing this. We're not going to look at this automation and everything. We'll take a listen and we'll talk about this in 2 seconds, okay? So let's switch back to actually SPAT Revolution because this is where the action happens. What you actually see on a SPAT session is the headphone mix, and you'll see all these groups again that we've talked about earlier. They're all there. If I'm folding everything, eventually you'll just see some little points there in space. Oh, and there's an enemy there. Who are you? Oh, you're the bass. Yes, the bass. And bass, while you're there, let's just start with the preset there. Okay, so you're actually going to see this scene. I just recall the start snapshot to make sure I'm at the right start point here. So we'll be listening to the headphone and we'll turn to this 916 setup in 2 seconds. Let's listen to it for a second and let's get back into it right after.
Hold on, baby, we can turn it around. I never ever meant to let you down when you cried, and I cannot deny. I'll never settle. Can I level? I will battle to the metal. I won't give up on this feeling. We can make it. It's that easy.
Hugo, what is up with that reverb? Yeah, that's intended. That is what he's been working with on that session. The reason you heard all this tail is because we're live in SPAT Revolution. And actually what you're hearing is, is the reverb engine that he used on some of the objects. On many objects, actually, he wanted really to have this very almost concert all style Vienna style, I like to think, in some ways. But this is the mix. We're not going to listen to it completely, and then we could obviously analyze it. There's some automation that goes on it, but now what we're going to want to do is actually to create a deliverable, because it was not intended originally, but we have a soundscape, we have the objects. We've got something that sounds good. Anyway, to my ear, this is actually fun. Let's actually consider this here. Let's, consider actually adding a room. And this is what we did. And in SPAT Revolution, right, you can basically add a room on the fly and connect these actual objects, right? As simply as this, take those objects. This was a shortcut to multi-select and connect them into a room. And this is basically where we define what? Well, we're actually going to move to the already created room. To the already created room, this is where we move to defining what the room is all about. On the right side, the inspector. Let's look at this inspector rapidly. We see that we are in channel base. We see that we're using a category of Pro Tools. Why is this important? Channel order. I'll review this conversation later. And then on the speaker arrangement, I actually chose all the way down there a 916 LCR LW right W, which is left wide, right wide, specifically to match this. So this is basically the arrangement. And for a panning technique, I chose LBAP, layer base amplitude panning. Why is this? This is a Dolby standard type panning technique over a 2-layer, a main, and some elevation. I could have asked other techniques as well. This is could all be possible. We're not limited to the standard panning techniques Dolby uses, but for this exercise, I'm using exactly the same one. This is the gain of the room. Yes, I've trimmed it, and thanks to the record audio that I've enabled there, I actually can record this in 2 seconds. Someone may say, Hugo, what are you doing on your session there? Some interesting things. You've got your binaural output there going to binaural, an actual hardware output, which is, by the way, what you've been listening to. But at the same time, on the other side, I've got this master connecting to a binaural monitor. So now I'm going to play it again for you guys, but I'm going to be muting this headphone, and I'm going to actually unmute the Never Settle 916 mix, virtualize over headphone. Now, it doesn't sound the same. I want to present this because this is the ability potentially to monitor this 916, maybe dosing the reverb engine, because we all know that different stream types, ambisonic, all the way to channel-based to binaural and reverb engine, we may want to be toning down or dosing anyway the reverb. So the binaural monitor will allow to do this. So now that I've muted the headphone, I'll be able to listen to that 916. Let's just do it quickly.
Hold on, baby.
So same story there, right? So now we're listening to this 916 and we're ready to record. Now, I'm not going to go through the process. You can watch the record webinar for this, but the record button is right down there. If I press record and I actually start to play. Yes, that's normal. I've pressed too many things at the same time. So basically, and recording, would be just recording the file. We could actually go all the way to the end, but I've stopped it in the middle there because I did not want to start the full recording. Simple. We've created a file. We'll be looking at those files in 2 seconds. So that's the environment. That's really the only thing to consider. A916 or anything else. Someone could think about doing a 22.2 NHK standard. Someone could think about doing 40 channel arrangement and using objects with all their position. There'll be more manual work to do there, and presets don't necessarily exist for it. But once the template is done, that could be your template for anything higher than 916. I'm using 916 as proven to be a desired kind of format for in music lately. Anyway, from an object, fixed objects, or static object perspective. Hope this making sense. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. We're not taking them now. And that's okay. We'll kind of go to the end of the exercise so people can probably will get answered as we move along. Excellent. So let's go back to our deck set rapidly here. So thanks to Kellen for sharing those tracks. I didn't actually call him to ask him the permission, but I had asked him before, and I know that he was comfortable as long as it's for demo content. But thanks for sharing it. He actually never reviewed this 916. I think I have to make a note for this, but this is the binaural audio mix that he actually worked on. Okay. Excellent. Okay, moving along. Now, create the mix print. Kind of a review on this, right? We ensure that we choose the desired channel-based mix format. Importance on the channel order. I can't name this enough. Now we're going to use this new record feature in SPAT to record the room or the master. There's different ways to do it, but the room could actually be recorded. The room for us is a bus, by the way. If you wonder, hey, what's a SPAT room? He's been talking about a room. It's a bus. It's basically a bus with a bona fide bus, because there's more, but at the base, this is what it is. Moving on then, we're going to be able to import those wave track we just created into our Atmos ready environment. And I'm going to be doing this in 2 seconds with you. So let's do this now. We're going to be auditioning and mastering kind of step, right? Going back, we've got that wave file. We want to move it into our Atmos environment. So let's actually do this here. What I'm going to be doing for this, we're not going to need SPAT Revolution. We're going to say bye-bye to SPAT Revolution here, right? It's no longer going to be needed. We're actually going to be moving to Pro Tools. Let me make sure I open this Pro Tools session properly. I'm going to close the other one in the back. In the meantime, don't save. Oh, and for the one that are curious, Hugo, which Pro Tools version are you using? I was crazy enough last night to say, let's give it a shot. Pro Tools released 23.12 yesterday with built-in Dolby renderer. We're actually going to look at this together in some ways. I'll still show the Dolby external renderer, but the fact that it's now internal in Pro Tools is a huge time saving. So I said last night, let's just give it a try, and it functioned actually really, really nice. I'm not going to tell you why I actually upgraded, because there's some reason behind it. So anyway, let's just get going. I'm going to open this session here, see that everything's opened, and then I'll fire this on the screen. Well, Murphy's Law, right? Murphy said, you know what, you're not actually going to do this, so I'm going to restart Pro Tools. Yes, Pro Tools crashed. Can I say this live? I could actually expect this to happen, but I've just reopened straight from another session that was open, so I'm just going to go from scratch and reopen Pro Tools, and we should be good. It was good earlier anyway. Thank you, Pro Tools. Are you showing up? You are showing up. So yeah, 23.12 release yesterday. It's been fairly stable for the last hours. I think there are some challenges when you move from an internal Dolby renderer, external Dolby renderer, opening a session, and maybe a few, things there. But overall, the stability, has been there. Good. So we have that. I'm going to start by opening this 916 session, which is kind of all ready to go. But we're going to start with this, and then we're actually going to create one from scratch, okay? Excellent. Good. So what do we have going here? Well, there's a renderer doing his connection. Here we are. A Dolby renderer. 15 objects, 11 to 15 connected in blue. We see the Dolby renderer internal. We see we're on binaural audio right now. We have this beautiful plugin here. This is the Elixir from FLUX, which supports all the way to 32 channel, 16, I would say, in the context of Pro Tools with a 916. So I've got this one on the print, all right? So the print track is actually right there, up there. This is the print. I've got 4 prints here just to have you listen to, to them. And those prints are actually going out, and we'll do this together into a 916 bus, which feeds this actual routing folder, and we'll create this routing folder. It actually gets automatically created for us. So that makes it very, very simple as it, and it creates the ins and the outs, no problem. And you see here the left, the center, the right, the wides. These are actually all our Dolby panner position, right? I just picked up the left. So this is thanks to that preset. We don't need to bother with this. So we are ready actually to listen. So in this particular case, I've put the Elixir, I've put it on the routing folder. I could have actually put it on the print itself as well. I guess it doesn't matter. So that would be kind of to master all this. So let me actually, play this for you guys for a second. Before to listen to music, I've talked about the BP3600 microphone from Audio-Technica. I've got the little recording from you from a stadium in Germany, just to kind of, for fun for a second, and then we'll play this track from Never Settle. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to play this completely. This is the BP3600. Why did you only see 8 objects? Because this is the quad, the top and the bottom. Oh, and by the way, I've got 2 visitors. You guys want to come and say hello? It's Christmas time. I've decided to invite the kids around. They're actually cleaning up in the studio. You can come and say hello. You can. You have to move closer to my head. Yeah, exactly, because it's a small little image there. Yeah, you could say hola. Okay, now you can go. They were very curious in the door, saying, "Oh, what is Daddy doing? What's going on in the studio?" Yeah, Lori, a little, a little visit from Elsa, my daughter, and her friend. They're cleaning up some stuff around here. So back to our conversation. This was us listening to this BP3600. But now let's move on to the Neville Settle track, the one that we've printed, that we've talked about printing.
Hold on, baby, we can turn it around. I never ever meant to let you down when you cried, and I cannot deny.
Now I just stopped it. Hey, Hugo, we did not hear the tail this time. Yeah, well, that's because it's actually not, and no, it's already printed. So I just stopped the track. It's no longer printing. So you actually saw the scene there. We could talk, as we have this new Dolby Atmos built-in renderer, about the actual binaural mode. Now I'm using a near mode, but if someone cares to actually listen to what an actual far mode sounds like, and we can actually probably just engage this in 2 seconds. People that are doing Dolby are familiar with these modes, so let's give this a listen quickly again. I think I could stop it there. You probably heard that roomy, that far effect. So yes, but we add the session here on the near mode. So this is a new tab, by the way, in Dolby, in Pro Tools. There's an Atmos tab now to manage internal, external renderer. We'll probably switch to external renderer later. And then we've got, rendering here 25 tracks. Why 25? Object 1 to 25. So 15 tracks are the 9 and the 6, right? The 9 channels and the 6 channel. And we are sending the LFE, if LFE content exists, down to the bed. This is a common practice again. So the bed has the LFE. Right? There's no other way to route it anyway. So we put the LFE in the bed and that's it. There's nothing else in the bed. So that's why you saw only number channel 4 show up, right? If I play it again, look at the renderer. Looking at the renderer again, let me put this back into the near mode. One shot, that's working. Updating. Baby, Okay, I think we are good with this. That should be very clear. But now kind of saying, Hugo, you're kind of, showing everything, but we don't know how to get there. You know what? Let's actually do this together. We'll do it step by step. It's 12:55. We're going to jump to the QC shortly. And that one appears to be very simple. If actually, Pro Tools behave well with me, we actually should be in a good position to make this very rapidly. Let's give this a try. So we're going to close this session. This is the template that that I kind of built for myself. And now I just load prints wherever I can master them and ultimately export them as ADM. I guess before to switch there, it is important for me to talk about how do we actually make an ADM and a master using the internal renderer, and we'll look at it from the external one after. Here in the file, you actually have the ability to bounce the mix. And in the bounce mix option, a new option is actually to create the wave Dolby Atmos. And this is how you'll be actually exporting this master file that you've created. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details of this export process. First of all, the Dolby internal renderer released yesterday. You can assume that I haven't read the manual, which I should be doing. But I know it works. I've actually tried it. But this is what's going to happen, right? So the ones that are familiar with the external Dolby renderer, you know probably how to export this master or record ADM. But in the context of the internal, this was new to me. But this is done in Pro Tools itself, exporting this wave file, which is a broadcast wave, the second one. Actually, there's a broadcast wave and there's the Dolby Atmos one right there. Okay, making sense, I hope. Let's actually start this from clean. We close the session. Let's try that. Yeah, let's actually switch rapidly here, make sure everything is good. Let me just close this session. Do not save in the back there. You're not seeing anything, but that's normal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Pro Tools file. Yes. Thank you, Pro Tools. Excellent. So we're going to be creating a new session here, brand spanking new. We're going to call this My SPAT Dolby template, My SPAT Dolby. Okay, and we could call it 916. This is actually what that template is all about if we want to. Broadcast wave, yes, normal 48K, 24-bit, last I/O setup. I'm not changing anything. The location, and gonna create this session. Let's see what's going on here. Well, thank you. Dolby actually renderer pops up automatically. It was open in my last session, so that makes it simple. We could go review our I/O settings. But if I actually hit this, I actually see that the renderer 1, 2, 3, everything seems there. And my buses are there, so I mean, everything seems good. So actually, so far, nothing for us to do, for me to do anyway. So let's actually see what's involved in creating this. Simple, new track in Pro Tools. We're going to be using a track preset. In the track preset, we'll go Avid Dolby. And this is where we have all these presets. They're fairly new. They're about a year old, or actually, no, they're June. .6, and you'll see at the end the 916 object preset. So this is what we want. This is the intelligence to make it simple. Let's see if we create this. Some outputs or sends were made inactive. Okay, we'll review this later. Boom. Okay, so we are good. I see the objects aren't connected. Okay, I'll go review this after. So what we actually have now is that we have a 916, what we call routing folder. When we explode it, we have all the objects. They should have all their position, but the connection is not done yet. Aha. 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 Yeah, I'm going to go review this with you. Actually, with troubleshooting 101, that's no problem. Actually, you saw me. It just was not connected. It did not do the connection automatically. I guess we could do it here. It's not the end of the world. We could actually do it somewhere else, but I'm just going to do it here because I'm in front of you and it's live and it should work. All right, so I'm basically connecting all our objects. They're becoming online. You see them. It's actually a good exercise. We see kind of what's going on from that dynamic. The LFE is no object. It's a bus. Yes, making sense. 20, 21, 22. If I make this correct, maybe not. Let's see. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 as an object, 18, 19, and then I've got 2 times 19. Well, that wouldn't be good. Correcting this. 20, 21. Yeah, someone's probably saying, Hugo, there's a shortcut for this. You could do this. Well, bear with me. I work with so many workstations that remembering the shortcut sometime is just not possible. Yes, 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 yes. Yay! Hooray! So we have all our objects. Well, you see, this one doesn't want to be our friend. It will be now. Yay! All our objects are actually there. 25, so 15 objects. This should get done automatically, but I'm trying with the Dolby internal renderer there, so maybe there's a little something. So this is our routing folder. This is the object. They're all connected to the renderer. Next step, very simple one actually, is to create a new track for our print. I'm going to bring a new track this time for a 916. I'm going to call this our print. Not a prompt, but a print. And we're going to create from there. Oh, time is flying already. But here we are. Oh, the print. I'm going to bring it up there. So here we are. We have our print. I actually may use our plugins, the Elixir for the mastering, which you saw before. I just popped it up. And now it'd be a matter to load the tracks. Let me load some tracks for you here. I'm going to take the prints, from the same session. And I'm actually going to bring a test track as well. Why is a test track important? Well, the test track could be very important to make sure before we bounce that we have the good routing, right? All these channel orders and things. It's a good practice actually to have a test file. I've created this test file with SPAT. I'm not going to go through, maybe we make it available as well. So let's actually try this. Is the test working? Yep. Left, center. All right, so we're going to actually going to the center and so on and so forth. So we could follow. Yeah, okay, I know this was louder. Oh, good. So we've got this test file there. We are all set. Let's say we've confirmed that everything was fine. And then.
Hold on, baby, we can turn it around. I never ever meant.
Et voila, here we are. So from scratch, we've kind of recreated exactly what you saw before with the template. Using the routing folder, the print feeds automatic. When we've added the print, they actually saw only one 9.1.6 bus, so it patched to it right there. It patched to that bus right away, 916, and it's actually feeding automatically our routing folder. And we are done. We are pretty much done. This is what it is. So I think we're going to kind of wrap this slowly to take some questions. This was a long one, but I think I've made it good. And someone may say, Hugo, can you do this with the external renderer? I'll let people ask. The dynamic is all the same. And, we're not here to explain how, a Dolby renderer connects necessarily, but we'll review those things together at least. And we'll then turn to some question. I think that's actually a pretty damn good way to slowly start to conclude this session here. Okay. So kind of as a review of all what we've talked about today, an intense subject. Am I on this side? No, I should be on the other side, I think. Yes. Okay, good. So Pro Tools session, and kind of the Atmos authoring session. We're creating a new session. Now it's possible with the renderer, the built-in renderer. You saw me do it. We had this little caveats there, but I don't know if it's I'll review this, but fresh from the Avid camp yesterday, I was happy to be able to use it. Next thing we're going to be doing is alternatively, we're going to be using the I/O setup to create the connect to the renderer, the Dolby renderer Pro Tools. If you're not using the built-in renderer or you're on an older version of Pro Tools without the built-in renderer, and that would be 23.9, 23.6. And even previous to this, you could be doing this. It just won't be as easy. So then we're going to, alternatively, we're going to be using the audio bridge to connect both applications together, okay? Simple with that conversation. Good practice as well to clear and load presets for all these I/O and these routings. For the ones that work with this all the time, they know this. And as you saw me do, I basically started by creating a new track with the Dolby track preset. I've created the 916, and that track is actually what we call a routing folder. So it's basically a fairly new thing that's called call an object, preset, and it creates the routing folder and the buses, an input bus and an output bus needed. So in a single snap. So very, very rapid to do it. And then moving on, what we looked at together is we've created a new 9.1.6 track for the print, and that we've imported the track. You didn't see me do this, but I dragged the audio you saw come up. We did the test track. It should be routed by default to the bus, as we saw. It did happen. Always validate the channel order. As I've mentioned, good practice is to do a test file, and that test file can be done in SPAT. You put SPAT and record, and we've got these test tones. So you could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, send a ping, send a sweep. So you made your own test file for your 916 or whatever arrangement you want to do. But very important, we always get caught with channel order, moving from Nuendo to, anyway, without getting into the details of this, let's just say that there's enough channel order out there to drive you all and myself crazy. Okay. And then we're going to be applying any mastering plugins desired for the print track, right? Whatever tools you've been using to master, an actual bed could be used there, and be able to actually then, bounce this to an ADM format. In the case of Pro Tools with the built-in renderer, it's export bounce to the ADM or the Dolby ADM format file. In the context of the Dolby external renderer, be simple actually just to record and then export the ADM master, something that people in Atmos are used to. Again, the session today is not about showing all the Dolby Atmos. I let the specialists at Dolby to do this, and there's a lot of resources on that, and it's very simple to do. So, voila. Yes, make provision for an LTC track. I've kind of put it there. If you're using the external renderer, this audio needs to flow. This audio LTC timecode needs to flow between both. So your Dolby renderer chases and kind of records and follow the timeline. And kind of, anyway, many reasons for it. Again, it's an advanced subject for Dolby. Important to do it. Okay. I think on this note, I'm going to actually wrap this for today. Thanks, everyone, for watching. It was a long one, a good one. It's the last one of the year. I appreciate, your time. And, feel free to watch it again. Watch the last one on the recording feature itself, the last webinar of 2 weeks ago. And on this note, I wish everyone some great holidays. Here, it's winter time, so it's time for ski here in Canada. And put my scarf because it's freezing in the studio. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll let you on a little roll out, and we see each other later. Cheers, cheers.